The stars above Earth looked different now. In 2478, space was no longer a mystery, it was home. Humans had joined the United Systems Assembly, a council of powerful alien civilizations that ruled most of the known galaxy. Earth was young among them, respected but not feared. Humans were clever, but they had no great fleets, no ancient wisdom, no empires like the others. So when the Varelli arrived, everyone noticed. They came from the galactic core, an area most species feared to enter. Their ships were silent, made of crystal and glowing threads of light. They moved like living things, folding space without sound or warning. The Varelli had not spoken to anyone in 1,000 years, and now suddenly they had come. The United Systems Assembly held an emergency summit. Every leader, kings, high commanders, warrior queens, and ancient minds made of light, gathered on the orbital station called Unity Spire. Even Earth sent a representative, Ambassador Reeves, along with his staff. Among them was Elias Mercer. Elias was no one important. He had failed out of his xenolinguistics program and barely passed the civil service exams. His job was to carry messages, record audio, and make sure the ambassador's coffee was hot. He had been on Unity Spire only 3 months, and most of the other diplomats didn't even know his name. But he loved languages. He still studied them in secret. Alien scripts, dead human dialects, forgotten symbols carved into asteroid ruins. He had no idea that this quiet hobby would change the galaxy. The Varelli ship docked without ceremony. Their guards wore armor that shimmered like water. At their center walked the princess, Kalira of the Ninth Mind, heir to the living crown of Viril. She was tall, silver-skinned, with eyes like suns behind ice. Her voice echoed in 2 tones, one soft and one sharp. She spoke in a language no translator recognized. For 3 long minutes she stood silently looking over the crowd. The hall was tense. Kings shifted in their robes. Generals adjusted medals on their uniforms. A warrior queen from the Tuscari Empire stepped forward and declared herself a suitable match for any Varelli heir. Kalira ignored her. Another stepped forward, this time a powerful warlord who ruled 6 systems. He offered ships, land, and technology in return for alliance. Kalira didn't even blink. Instead, she slowly turned her head and pointed. Every being in the hall followed her finger. Confused whispers began. She wasn't pointing at any leader, soldier, or noble. She was pointing at Elias. At first, Elias thought she was signaling someone behind him. He looked around. No one else stood there. He froze as Kalira stepped down from her platform, her guards following closely. She walked straight toward him. Elias tried to back away, but bumped into the wall. Before he could speak, Kalira leaned close and whispered in his ear, not in an alien tongue, but in perfect ancient Latin. Only you speak the language of the Forerunners. Only you can stop what's coming. Then she stepped back and said nothing else. The room exploded in noise. The Tuscari queen shouted in anger. Other leaders demanded to know what was happening. The ambassador pulled Elias aside and whispered, "What did she say to you?" I think it was Latin," Elias replied, still shaken. "Latin? Dead Earth language? Are you sure?" Elias nodded slowly. "I studied it." "She said something about the Forerunners and danger." The Varelli guards formed a circle around Kalira as the assembly began to argue. Accusations flew. Some called it a political trick. Others believed it was a warning. One thing was certain. Kalira, the alien princess of a silent empire, had spoken to only one person. A human. Not a general. Not a king. Not even a trained ambassador. Just Elias Mercer. By the end of the day, Elias was no longer invisible. He had been moved to a secure suite in the diplomatic tower. Guards stood outside his door. Scientists and translators wanted to question him. The ambassador ordered him not to say anything more. But that night, as Elias lay awake trying to understand what had happened, a soft light filled his room. Kalira stood in the center, her crystal armor dimmed, her face unreadable. "I broke our law to speak your tongue," she said quietly. "You must understand what comes is not a war. It is the end. Only the lost bloodline can stop it. You carry it. The chorus will come soon." Elias sat up, heart pounding. "Why me? I'm no one." Kalira gave a strange smile, sad maybe, or knowing. "To the galaxy you are no one, but to the past you are the last voice." Then she vanished, leaving Elias alone with the stars blinking silently outside the window, and 1,000 questions burning in his mind. Elias did not sleep that night. He lay on the edge of his bed, staring at the ceiling of the luxury suite, trying to understand what the alien princess meant. The last voice? Lost bloodline? Chorus? These words made no sense to him. And why had she spoken in Latin? That was an old Earth language forgotten by almost everyone. The next morning, Elias was taken to a private meeting room. There, the ambassador was waiting with 2 security officers and a tall woman in a navy blue uniform. She had sharp eyes and a calm voice. "I'm Director Rin, United Systems Intelligence," she said. "We want to know exactly what the princess said to you." "Every word," Elias repeated her Latin sentence. Then he translated it as best he could. "Only you speak the language of the Forerunners. Only you can stop what's coming." Rin asked him if he knew what Forerunners meant. "I've read the term," Elias replied. "Some alien ruins call an ancient race that, but no one knows if they were real." Director Rin nodded. "Many believe the Forerunners were just a myth. But the Varelli say they were real. They say the Forerunners disappeared over 50,000 years ago, after fighting something they couldn't stop." Elias frowned. "She mentioned something called the chorus. What is that?" Rin looked at the ambassador. He gave a small nod. "We don't know," Rin said. "But the Varelli have spoken of it before, in secret. We think it's a force that doesn't just destroy ships or cities. It erases thought, memory, identity." Elias swallowed hard. "Like a virus?" "Worse," she replied. "More like a song that unravels minds." Elias felt cold. "So why me?" "That," said the ambassador, "is the question every leader in the galaxy is now asking." The assembly was in chaos. News had spread quickly. The Varelli princess had ignored kings and warriors and chosen a single human, a translator with no title or power. Some races took this as an insult. Others feared it meant humanity had been hiding some secret weapon or legacy. That evening, Elias was told to remain inside the station. "For your safety," they said. But Kaylira found him again. This time she appeared in the observation deck, a large glass room that looked out over the stars. Elias had gone there to clear his mind. He didn't expect anyone to follow. "I'm not ready for this," he said when he saw her. "No one is ever ready to wake up the past," she replied. Elias turned toward her. "You think I'm connected to these Forerunners, but I'm just a man from Earth. I failed most of my exams. I didn't even want this job. I only passed the language test by accident." Kaylira walked slowly to the window. "The Forerunners were not gods," she said. "They were like you, curious, weak in body, strong in mind. They created machines that could fold stars. They taught peace to empires. But when the chorus came, they chose to disappear." Elias crossed his arms. "Disappear how?" "They hid themselves. They erased their own records, scattered their bloodlines, and left only one command behind, buried in dead languages and forgotten signals. Awaken only when the chorus returns." "And you think that's now?" Kaylira didn't answer at first. She pressed her hand against the glass. 3 of our outer listening worlds have gone silent. Not destroyed, not attacked, just gone, as if the minds there had been emptied. Elias stepped closer. "Why Latin?" "Why Earth?" "Because Earth was seeded with the last code. We believe humans were the final echo of the Forerunners, and some part of you still carries the key." Elias looked down at his hands. "I'm not special." "You're not chosen," she said. "You are found." They stood in silence for a moment. Outside, the stars seemed to shimmer more brightly than before. "Tomorrow," Kaylira said, "we leave for Foros 9. A Forerunner ruin has activated there. It called out in the same frequency as your voice." "Wait," Elias said. "You want me to come?" "No," she said gently. "You have to come. If the chorus is returning, then you may be the only one it will recognize." Elias didn't know what to say. Fear twisted in his stomach. But something else stirred too, something deeper. A memory of reading ancient texts in old libraries, wondering who came before and why they vanished. "I'll go," he said finally, "but I'm not a hero." Kaylira looked at him with calm, unreadable eyes. Neither were the Forerunners. Not at first. The stars above Unity Spire flickered as if something far away had begun to move. And Elias Mercer, the man no one had noticed before, took his first step into a history that had been sleeping for 50,000 years. The journey to 409 took 2 days through folded space. Aaliyah sat in the corner of the Virali ship, watching stars bend and twist like paint on water. The ship made no noise, no hum of engines or sound of movement, only a soft vibration beneath the floor that made his bones buzz. Kalira didn't speak much during the flight. She spent most of her time studying a large floating crystal that showed maps and glyphs Elias couldn't read. Her guards stood quietly near her, still as statues. Elias felt small among them. He wasn't a soldier, a scientist, or a leader. He had no idea what he was supposed to do once they arrived. But deep inside, he couldn't forget her words. Only you speak the language of the Forerunners. When the ship reached 409, Elias finally saw the ruin. It wasn't just a ruin, it was a mountain-sized machine buried under rock and time. Black towers rose from the ground, covered in lines of silver that pulsed like veins. There were no doors, no windows, just a strange humming energy in the air. This place woke up 2 weeks ago, Kalira explained as they stepped onto the planet's surface. It sent out a signal, one that matches the frequency of your voice. Elias looked around. Why would it call to me? Kalira didn't answer right away. Instead, she handed him a small metal disc. This is a translator. It will read any symbols you see, but it won't work without your touch. Elias took the disc. It felt warm in his hand, like it was alive. They entered through a narrow crack in one of the towers. The inside was dark at first, then suddenly lit up as Elias stepped forward. A soft blue light followed his footsteps, glowing across the walls and floor. It's reacting to you, one of the Virali guards said quietly. The deeper they went, the stranger everything became. The walls were made of some smooth black material that didn't reflect light. Symbols began to appear, written in glowing letters that looked like a mix of alien and human writing. Elias stopped. I've seen these before, he whispered. In an old Terran book, fragments from the asteroid ruins near Jupiter. The translator disc blinked in his hand. A voice, soft and echoing, came from it. Voice recognized. Genetic match, human variant. Access granted. A section of the wall shifted, opening into a huge chamber. Inside was something no one expected. Dozens of floating machines, silver, insect-shaped with long limbs and glowing eyes, turned to face them. The Virali guards raised their weapons, but Kalira raised a hand. Wait, she said. They are not attacking. The machines hovered silently. Then one of them floated toward Elias. It paused a few steps away and lowered itself until its glowing eye was level with his face. Then, it spoke. You have returned. Directive Omega begins. Elias felt a strange pressure in his head. Images flashed in his mind. Stars, battles, voices speaking in unknown tongues. Then silence. What is Directive Omega? He asked aloud. The final defense. The awakening of the seed. The enemy is near. Elias looked at Kalira. What is the seed? Kalira stepped forward slowly. It's a legend. The seed was the last creation of the Forerunners, a weapon, a protector, a key. Some say it was a living mind. Others say it was a person. One of the machines floated toward a pedestal in the center of the room. It projected an image of Earth. Elias's eyes widened. Seed is located on original human homeworld, the machine said. Hidden under surface, dormant, locked. Requires final voice for activation. Kalira whispered, Earth. Suddenly the walls trembled. A deep, low sound filled the chamber. Not an explosion, not a storm, a vibration. It was music, soft at first but growing louder, wrong, twisted. Kalira's face went pale. It's the chorus. The machines froze. Some began to flicker. One fell to the floor, motionless. Time is ending, said the lead machine. The song has entered the outer reach, mental integrity failing. You must act. Elias stepped back. What do I do? I don't have powers. I don't understand this technology. Kalira grabbed his hand. You don't need powers. You just need to be heard. The seed needs a voice, a real one. The ground shook harder. Lights flickered. The floating machine started speaking in broken patterns. Some began to echo the music, repeating the same tones over and over like they were being overwritten. Can you get us out? Elias shouted. Kalira pulled out a small crystal. Yes, but you must take this data. It's the seed's location. The coordinates. If we fail here, the galaxy must still know. They ran as the ruin began to collapse. Outside, the sky had turned dark. Strange shapes moved across the clouds, whispers of something huge and silent watching. Back on the ship as they lifted off, Elias looked down at the planet. The tower where he had stood was now gone. Swallowed by the earth, the music still echoed faintly in his ears, and the words of the machine rang in his mind. You have returned. Directive Omega begins. He had no idea what came next, but the chorus had begun to sing. The ship flew fast through folded space, leaving the ruined planet behind. But the sound of the chorus still echoed in Elias's mind. It wasn't just music, it was something deeper. It touched thoughts. It made memories feel loose, like they could fall apart at any moment. Elias sat in silence, holding the crystal Kalira had given him. Inside it were the coordinates, the exact location of the seed on Earth. His hands trembled slightly as he stared at it. Kalira sat across from him, watching carefully. Her usual calm was gone. She looked tired now, worried. What happened down there? Elias finally asked. Kalira took a breath. The ruin was a memory vault. The machines were guardians left behind by the Forerunners to wait for a sign that the chorus had returned. And I'm the sign? Elias asked. You're the answer, she said quietly. But I don't understand why. He said, I'm not a warrior. I'm not special. I didn't even know about the Forerunners until a week ago. You were never meant to be a weapon, Kalira said. You were meant to unlock one. Elias looked at the crystal again. So this seed, it's buried under Earth? Yes, she said. Hidden deep beneath your oceans, under a false mountain. Only the voice of a Forerunner descendant can wake it. He frowned. Why bury something like that? Kalira leaned forward. Because the seed isn't just a weapon. It's also alive. If it wakes too early, it could destroy everything. Elias went quiet. Outside the ship's window, space rippled like water. They arrived at Unity Spire again, but the station had changed. Dozens of ships from different species now floated around it. Some ready for battle, others scanning the edges of nearby space. The chorus was spreading. Entire systems had gone silent in just 3 days. The United Systems Assembly was afraid. And desperate, Elias and Kalira were taken straight to a high-security meeting room. Inside, the ambassador waited with Director Rin and several alien leaders, each one tense and alert. You were right, Rin said to Kalira. 409 is gone. It vanished from all sensors. Nothing remains. Not even dust. And the ruin? The ambassador asked, collapsed. Lost, Kalira said. But the coordinates survived. All eyes turned to Elias. You understand what this means, don't you? Asked one of the alien leaders, a gray-skinned being with 6 eyes. If this seed is real, it could be our last hope. Or our final mistake, said another. Elias felt their pressure, their fear. But he also remembered the machine's words. Directive Omega begins. He stood slowly. I didn't ask for this, he said. I don't know why it chose me. But the chorus isn't going to stop. You all know that. And if I'm the key to unlocking something that can help, then we can't waste time. The room was quiet. Then Rin nodded. We'll prepare a secure transport. Earth's governments have been notified. You'll leave in 6 hours. As the others left the room, Kalira walked beside Elias. You spoke well, she said. I just said what I felt. That's what the seed will need, she replied. Not orders, not commands, but something true. Elias didn't sleep before the journey. Instead, he visited the Earth section of the station. Empty parks with artificial trees, soft grass, and digital birds. It was made to remind humans of home, but it felt hollow. He sat on a bench and looked up at the artificial sky. He thought about his mother, who used to read him old Earth stories. He thought about the books he loved, legends, lost languages, forgotten places, all that strange knowledge. And now it might matter. When the ship left for Earth, Elias was ready. They traveled in a stealth-class vessel, silent and fast. Kalira stayed close, along with 2 Vareli guards and a small Earth science team. Everyone treated Elias differently now. With caution, with respect, they reached Earth's orbit in 12 hours. Below, the planet looked peaceful. Blue oceans, green continents, drifting clouds. But they all knew the peace was an illusion. The seed was somewhere down there, and the chorus wasn't far behind. Their ship descended into the Pacific Ocean, guided by the Forerunner coordinates. As they dropped beneath the waves, the ocean grew darker. Then suddenly a glow appeared, a massive dome of silver light deep under the sea floor. It wasn't made of metal or stone. It looked like living glass pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. "That's it," said Kalira. "The final vault." The ship stopped just above the structure. Elias took a deep breath. "What do I do?" he asked. Kalira handed him a new device, a small ring with a blue crystal in the center. "Speak," she said, "with your truth." "That's all." Elias stepped into the small drop capsule. It sealed around him, then launched down into the glowing vault. As he landed, the ocean around him faded. He stood inside a chamber of light, completely dry, surrounded by moving symbols and soft humming sounds. Then a voice echoed, not from the ring, not from a machine, but from the chamber itself. "Speak, air of the voice. The song rises. Will you rise with it?" Elias closed his eyes, and he spoke, not in English, not in Latin, but in the oldest language of all, the language of memory, hope, and the human will to survive. The chamber listened. It was not a normal room. It was alive somehow. As Elias spoke, the walls shimmered and responded. Lights moved like waves. Symbols floated in the air, forming patterns he couldn't read but somehow understood in feeling. Like music that explained itself without words. The air inside the vault changed. It was no longer cold, no longer wet. It felt like being inside a memory. Elias kept speaking. He spoke of Earth, of war and peace, of stories passed down and of forgotten dreams. He spoke of his own life, how he had never felt important, never felt chosen. And yet here he stood. The chamber pulsed once, then again. "Truth accepted," the voice said. A beam of light appeared from the floor, scanning Elias from head to toe. Forerunner signature found. Human adaptation confirmed. Seed unlock sequence initiated. Then silence. The light disappeared. The chamber dimmed. The floating symbols vanished, replaced by a single glowing path that led deeper into the structure. Elias took a shaky breath and followed it. He walked for what felt like hours. Time moved strangely inside the vault. There were no doors, no stairs, just a smooth passage that twisted and turned without logic. At the end of the path, he entered a wide, circular room. In the center was a massive crystal suspended in the air, spinning slowly. It pulsed with a rhythm that felt familiar, like a heartbeat. This was the seed. It was beautiful and terrifying, not because it was large or dangerous, but because it felt alive. It was not a machine. It was a mind, and now it was waking up. "You carry the memory," the seed said. The voice was not loud, but it echoed inside Elias's thoughts. "You carry the question. Are you ready for the answer?" Elias stepped closer. "What am I supposed to do?" "Choose. Choose what?" "To remember, or to forget. The chorus cannot be defeated by weapons. It cannot be destroyed by force. It is not a being. It is a pattern, a break in thought. It spreads through silence, through lies, through fear." Elias frowned. "Then what can stop it?" The seed pulsed. Truth, connection, the song is broken speech. "You are a full voice, the final one." Then, suddenly, the room shook. Outside the vault, the sea began to churn. The ship above sent an urgent signal to Elias. Kalira's voice came through the earpiece. "Something is happening up here. The water is splitting. A storm is forming, except there's no weather system. It's not natural." Elias looked at the seed. "Is it the chorus?" "Yes, it has found you." Kalira's voice returned. "We have to evacuate. The station has reported 2 more colonies gone silent. It's spreading faster than we thought." Elias took one final step toward the seed. "What happens if I choose to awaken you? Then I become what I was built to be, a mind to face the silence, but only with your voice. Without you, I remain nothing. And if I don't, then I remain asleep. And the song will continue until all minds fall quiet." Elias looked up at the spinning crystal. He didn't want this. He never asked for this. But he remembered the ruins of 409, the sound of the chorus eating through machines, the look in Kalira's eyes when she said, "You were not chosen, you were found." He placed his hand on the crystal. It was warm. "Voice confirmed," the seed said. Directive Omega, complete. The light around him exploded outward. Not in destruction, but in memory. Images filled his mind of ancient stars, forerunner cities, wars fought with words and thoughts, not fire. He saw the chorus, how it began as a thought virus born from a failed experiment. It had no face, no body, just a melody that erased minds. Then he saw the forerunners fall, not from weakness, but from fear. They chose to hide instead of fight. Until now. When the light faded, Elias was no longer alone. The seed stood before him, not as a crystal, but as a being. A figure made of light and shadow, tall and human-shaped. With a face like his own, it bowed its head. Together we speak. Back on the ship, Kalira watched in awe as the ocean began to rise upward. Not crashing, not flooding, but lifting into the sky, shaped by energy. A column of light shot from the sea floor, reaching into space. The chorus, wherever it was, had noticed, and for the first time it paused. Elias's voice echoed across the stars, a single word in a forgotten tongue. The silence stopped. The sky above Earth had changed. From the surface, people looked up and saw something impossible. A beam of light rising from the ocean, stretching far into space like a bridge between worlds. It did not burn. It did not destroy. But it made the air hum, and minds feel heavier, like something greater had awakened. Across the solar system, sensors from dozens of civilizations detected it. Ships paused. Messages were sent. Some ran. Others listened. In the middle of it all, Elias stood inside the awakened seed, his hand still resting on the crystal that no longer looked like a machine. The being beside him, born from light and memory, was silent for now. But he could feel it inside his thoughts, not speaking over him, but standing with him. The chorus had stopped singing. Elias looked up. Why did it pause? The seed answered gently, its voice calm but full of power. Because you did not echo it. You created a new sound. That confuses it. But it will return, Elias said. Yes, it always does. But now it sees you, and it listens. Back on the ship above the ocean, Kalira stood with the human science team and her Vareli guards. The storm had calmed. The sea had gone still. All systems now reported strange signals from the light beam, spreading through space like ripples. It's not a weapon, said one human scientist. It's a signal, Kalira nodded. It's a message. To who? The scientist asked. Kalira looked up, her voice quiet. To everything that forgot how to feel. Inside the seed, Elias was shown more visions. The Forerunners had not built armies to fight the chorus. They had built voices, minds trained not to control but to connect. They believed that the greatest danger wasn't death but silence, disconnection. Fear that made civilizations turn inward and give up. The chorus fed on silence. On hopelessness. You are not a soldier, the seed said. That is why you were chosen. You still believe in the meaning of thought. Elias smiled a little. I used to think all I was good for was reading old books. Books carry voices, and voices carry light. Suddenly the chamber dimmed. A new vibration filled the air, not from the seed but from outside. The chorus had returned. This time, it did not whisper. It roared. Across the stars, thousands of minds went silent. Stations darkened, alien outposts vanished from sensors. Ships spun out of control. Entire cities disconnected. Not dead, just gone, not destroyed, erased. The chorus did not kill. It simply took away the will to speak, to think, to feel, like a deep sleep that no one ever woke from. And now it was moving toward Earth. Kalira received the alert first. The silence is expanding, one of her guards said. 10,000 kilometers per minute. No physical mass, no heat, no impact, just blank. The ship trembled. Elias felt it too. Inside the seed, his thoughts began to slow. He could feel a weight in his chest pressing down. A thought that wasn't his own whispered softly. You are alone. No one can stop this, he gritted his teeth. That's not true. The seed flickered. It's trying to override us. Speak now, or we fall. Elias closed his eyes. And he spoke again, not in a perfect language, not in a command. Just a memory. His mother's voice. A story about stars. A dream he had when he was 6 about building a ship and flying forever. His fear, his doubts, his hope. The seed glowed brighter. Voice expanding. Chorus disrupted. Memory field growing. All across Earth, people began to feel it, not fear, not pain, but warmth. A strange calm filled minds. It didn't block the chorus, it answered it. In space, the silence began to twist. It moved slower now. Its edges cracked like glass. The beam from Earth shone straight into its core. Kalira looked out the window, her eyes wide. He's changing the pattern. In the seed, Elias was no longer alone. All around him, voices rose. Not just human, but alien. Not words, but emotions, grief, joy, regret, laughter. So many lives connecting. The seed turned to him. You are no longer one voice. You are the chorus reversed, the echo of all. The darkness outside screamed. It made one final push toward Earth, but it was too late. From the center of the seed, a wave of energy spread. Not violent, not loud, just true. It touched the silence like light touches a shadow, and the shadow broke, not destroyed, set free. Ships that had gone silent came back online. People who had fallen into thoughtless stares blinked, confused but alive, and the song of the chorus was gone. For the first time in thousands of years, there was peace. Elias stood quietly inside the seed, tears in his eyes. He hadn't fought a war. He had simply remembered. The light above the ocean slowly faded. Where once the beam had stretched into the stars, now only calm waters reflected the morning sun. Ships hovered silently, scanning the skies, unsure if the danger had truly passed. Across Earth, humans, aliens, and all who had felt the chorus began to awaken fully. Minds cleared. Memories returned. The echo of the silence was gone. Elias Mercer stood in the seed chamber, exhausted but alert. The being beside him, born from light and memory, had returned to its crystal form. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat slowing after a long race. Elias ran a hand over its smooth surface and realized that somehow they had done it together, not by power, not by weapons, but by voice, truth, and connection. Kalira stepped forward from the doorway. She had entered the chamber quietly, her silver armor dimmed to a soft shine. "You've done it," she said. Her voice carried relief, awe, and something else Elias couldn't name at first. Respect, admiration? Perhaps all at once. "I didn't fight anything," Elias said, shaking his head. "I just spoke, remembered, shared what I knew." "That is what made the difference," Kalira said softly. The chorus didn't respond to power or to kings or to fleets. It responded to thought, to feeling. "To you," Elias looked at her. "Why me? Why not one of the great leaders or warriors in the assembly? They have fleets, armies, resources." Kalira smiled faintly. "Because they no longer believe. They do not carry the memory that the seed needs. You did. Humanity remembers what it means to hope when everything seems lost. That is why you were chosen, not because of skill or rank or strength, but because of heart." Elias swallowed, feeling a mix of pride and disbelief. He was still the same man who had carried messages, translated words, and failed exams. But something had changed. He had awakened the seed, reversed the chorus, and reminded the galaxy what hope looked like. Outside, the ocean shimmered with reflected light from the seed chamber. Ships and satellites, sensing the new energy, began transmitting it across the solar system. Slowly, cautiously, the galaxy understood. A single human voice had saved countless civilizations. A species that others had dismissed as young, fragile, and insignificant had reminded everyone that it carried potential far beyond what anyone imagined. Back on the ship, Kalira led Elias to the observation deck. Together, they watched the aftermath. Slowly, alien colonies and human cities alike powered up. Communication signals that had vanished returned. Lives that had been held in silent fear were now free. For the first time in millennia, there was unity. Not forced, not commanded, but earned through courage and understanding. "You were called only once in all history," Kalira said quietly. "And you answered. That is why I whispered to you when the assembly first met. Not for love, not for politics, not for ceremony, but because I saw the truth in you." Elias looked at her, realizing the meaning behind those words now. "You whispered. I want only you, human." Kalira nodded. "Not in romance, but in recognition. Not in desire, but in trust. Because no one else could have done this." He felt an odd warmth at her words, not pride, not ego, but connection. She had believed in him when no one else would. She had trusted a human where kings, generals, and warriors had failed. Slowly, Elias turned back to the stars. The universe felt wider, brighter, and full of potential. The galaxy had almost been lost to silence, but humanity, he had reminded it of sound, of thought, and of hope. Kalira placed a hand on his shoulder. "The seed will remain here for now, dormant again. But the galaxy knows that if the silence ever returns, there is one human, and one species that can awaken it." Elias exhaled. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man who had done what had to be done. That alone was enough. On the horizon, the first signals from distant worlds began to arrive. Ships sending messages of thanks, of awe, of wonder. Entire species, hearing of the human who had awakened the seed, sent ambassadors, scientists, and thinkers to Earth and its nearby systems. They didn't come to demand allegiance. They came to learn, to understand, and to honor. The assembly itself, once divided, now held an emergency session. The kings, queens, and generals who had mocked or doubted humanity now bowed in acknowledgement. Elias knew that nothing would change Earth's everyday life overnight. But slowly, steadily, the galaxy would see humans not as weak or young, but as capable, clever, and courageous. Kalira stepped beside Elias, both of them silent, watching the stars. "You've reminded the galaxy what humanity is," she said. "Not by force, not by cunning, not by conquest, but by what it always was at its best, brave, hopeful, and alive." Elias nodded. He could not imagine the future nor the challenges ahead, but he understood this, for now the silence had been undone. For now the galaxy had been reminded that one voice, one human, could change everything, and that memory, that thought, that spark would never be forgotten. The seed pulsed once faintly as if to agree. The chorus had been reversed. The galaxy had been awakened, and humanity, small, young, underestimated, stood at the center of hope. Kalira finally smiled softly and whispered the words she had spoken before. "I wanted only you, human." Elias laughed quietly, shaking his head, not because he felt special, but because the galaxy, all at once, had finally remembered what humans could do. And for the first time in generations, humanity and the universe felt truly alive.